Welcome to the Privacy Report.
Great to be here.
Today, we're focusing on a bargain you probably make, well, dozens of times a day without even realizing it.
Oh, yeah?
The trade-off that comes with free software. It's so tempting, right? A search engine, an email service, a social app, all for $0 up front.
It feels like a great deal.
It does.
Yeah.
But if we aren't paying with money, what exactly is the hidden cost? What are we covering with our personal data, our attention, and our very digital behavior?
That's the core question.
It's just such an essential trade-off to understand if we want to function in the modern digital world. Our mission today is to pull back the curtain on the mechanics of this data collection.
See how it works.
Exactly. We'll follow the trail of where that data actually goes and critically explore some practical ways for you, the listener, to regain control.
And you can.
You can. First, just a quick note. For deeper resources and summaries of what we discuss, you can always subscribe to our email newsletter. That's at theprivacyreport.net.
So that concept, that free is expensive, it's really the foundational paradox of the modern internet.
Right.
If a service costs you nothing to use, the company has to generate revenue somehow. And almost invariably, that revenue comes from leveraging your data.
So they collect it.
They collect it, they analyze your behavior, and then they monetize those insights, usually through advertising, but increasingly through these sophisticated data partnerships or even the resale of detailed user profiles.
I think the typical user, I don't think they realize just how comprehensive that tracking is.
No.
Just a few clicks.
Yeah.
We're talking about deeply sophisticated behavioral monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
Companies and the ad networks they use are tracking what you do across completely different websites and apps. It's called cross-site tracking. And it exists for one reason.
To build that profile.
To build a comprehensive moment-by-moment profile of who you are and what motivates you.
And this is where the conversation really needs to shift, because the true cost is. It's just so much more than seeing an ad for shoes you looked at once.
Right. That's just the surface-level annoyance.
Exactly. The hidden costs are systemic. We're talking about a reduced expectation of privacy, an environment of constant surveillance.
Well, and huge security risks.
And drastically amplified security risks. I mean, if a company holds the key to your entire digital identity and that key is ever mishandled or breached, the consequences are just severe.
What fascinates me is how much information they're able to pull in. It's just this huge dragnet.
It is.
They grab everything from the obvious account details, specific location data, device identifiers, all the way to your granular browsing habits. And then they use these complex models to, infer your interests.
Your interests, your intent, even your mood. But the how is the interesting part. How does this dragnet actually operate on our devices?
Yeah, let's get into that.
Well, it happens largely through components that aren't even built by the app developer themselves.
So not the main company.
Right. Think of the app you download as hiring, like dozens of tiny third-party contractors. Those are the SDKs, or software development kits. The core app needs one SDK for analytics, another for push notifications, and another for seamless ad integration.
And these aren't essential for the app to, do its main job.
Not at all. But once they're invited in, they gather data on the side for their own networks or for their parent company. And then, of course, you have the tracking scripts and cookies on the web, which act as constant, silent observers of every single page you load.
That's a great analogy. It makes it clear that the data collection is basically outsourced.
Yeah.
And that leads us directly to the data broker industry.
Ah, yes.
Most people have never even heard of these companies, but they are the powerful, often invisible engine that makes this entire system run.
That's a perfect way to put it. The data broker ecosystem is where the real scale occurs. They don't just use data from one app. They collect, aggregate, and share literally billions of consumer data points.
Billions.
From where? From countless sources, public records, commercial transactions, social media, you name it. They specialize in stitching together all these disparate fragments of information into a single, shockingly detailed profile.
So we're not just talking about ad personalization here. What's the real insight? What can a broker do with this data that's truly surprising?
Well, they can achieve a level of predictive power it's often unnerving.
Oh, so?
They don't need you to tell them your salary. By combining data points, like, say, the average income in your zip code, the model of your phone, and the types of loyalty cards you use, they can infer your income bracket with surprising accuracy.
What's surprising accuracy?
We're talking about 80% or 90% accuracy in some documented cases, and this all happens completely in the dark. Most people, they truly do not know who holds their data or how widely it flows, much less how precise the conclusions are that are drawn about them.
That lack of transparency is the defining feature of the risk, isn't it? So let's try to visualize this flow for everyone listening. We've established the collection methods. Now, let's walk through the 4 steps of the monetization pipeline. First up is collection.
Right, gathering that information via those scripts, cookies, and SDKs we mentioned.
Okay, step 1. What's step 2?
The second step is sharing. Once that data is collected, it's immediately passed off to a whole host of entities. Analytics platforms, advertisers, and those powerful data aggregators we just talked about.
Then comes step 3, aggregation. This is where the magic, or maybe the horror, happens.
Right. Data points from your search history, your fitness tracker, your purchase receipts, your location history, they're all combined. And often in these non-intuitive ways that create profiles richer than any single source could provide.
And finally, that all leads to step 4.
Profiling and monetization. Those incredibly detailed user profiles. They are the product.
Right.
They're sold, licensed, or used internally to optimize engagement, to keep your eyes glued to the screen, and to make sure the ads they serve are as targeted and therefore as expensive as possible.
So the whole pipeline is designed to just maximize the value extracted from your digital self.
Precisely.
And we see this model in practice every single day with services we all rely on. Google Search, Gmail, they offer incredible utility for free.
Invaluable for many.
But they're funded entirely through targeted advertising based on deep user activity.
Right.
The same goes for Facebook Meta now and TikTok, which rely on really intensive behavioral tracking to drive engagement and revenue.
They offer undeniable value.
They do, but we have to stress this. Their core business incentive is fundamentally not aligned with minimizing data collection or maximizing your privacy.
No, their success depends on doing the exact opposite. And if we connect that structural misalignment to the bigger picture of digital security, the risk becomes crystal clear. Look, if everyone keeps putting their eggs in one basket, these huge, centralized platforms holding billions of records, when that basket inevitably fails,
the damage is huge.
It's massive. Large-scale, centralized data accumulation significantly increases systemic risk. I mean, research in digital security confirms that when failures happen, when there's a data breach, the impact is amplified precisely because the target is so massive and the repository of data is so rich.
And the results are so much more serious than just seeing an irritating ad. We really need to detail the actual risks here. For me, the most concerning element is inference. Can you explain what that really means in practice?
Inference is the ability to deduce sensitive truths about you that you never explicitly shared.
Like connecting the dots.
Exactly. Imagine your location data shows you regularly visit a specific medical clinic, and your purchase history shows you buy a specific category of medication. By combining just those 2 seemingly anonymous data points, a profile can be created that reveals sensitive health information you would never, ever willingly share. That's inference.
Combining innocuous data to create a sensitive portrait?
That's it.
So the key security and privacy risks are huge. We've got the increased impact of data breaches, enabling government or corporate surveillance, and this exposure of sensitive info through inference.
And beyond the systemic issues, you face specific personal risks. Identity theft is the obvious one, sure, but also behavioral manipulation.
Where algorithms are subtly guiding your choices.
Right, steering you toward certain products or away from certain news. There's also discrimination through profiling, which can affect things like insurance quotes or loan applications.
All based on an inferred risk profile.
And just a general, steady loss of anonymity across every aspect of your life.
Hearing all of this, I mean, it can feel incredibly overwhelming, especially if you look at your browser, your phone, your network, and you just aren't sure where to even begin fixing things.
It feels like guesswork.
It does. The sheer volume of cookies, tracking scripts, and permissions makes figuring out which settings actually make a difference feel impossible. And, if you feel like you need a clear, actionable roadmap and maybe some hands-on help reviewing your accounts, devices, and all that, you might consider requesting a privacy checkup.
A way to cut through the noise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a personalized assessment designed specifically to save you time and avoid that guesswork. It gives you a clear, prioritized action plan and specific, tested, privacy-respecting tool recommendations that are customized to your needs.
That's the critical pivot point, I think, moving to practical solutions. The most important thing to internalize is that the business model, not the price tag, is what determines the privacy risk.
That's a great point. Paying for something doesn't automatically make it private.
Not at all. The company's policies, their actual data handling practices, their incentive structure, that matters far more than whether you paid $5 or $0 for the software.
So let's compare the three main models. They offer really different trade-offs. First, the ad-supported model, which is the problem we've been diagnosing.
Right. Advertisers pay, data collection is extensive, and your user control is, well, it's low.
Very low.
Okay, what's the...
Then you have subscription models. In these cases, you pay, which means the company's revenue is directly aligned with your satisfaction, not your data extraction.
A much better incentive.
A much better incentive. Data collection is usually minimal, just what's needed for the service to function, and user control is generally medium to high.
And the third, which is often the most robust for true control, is the open source or self-hosted model.
Yeah, this is the gold standard for control. Here, users or donors often pay. But the crucial difference is that the code is transparent. And if it's self-hosted, you control the infrastructure itself.
So data collection is minimal. And user control is the highest you can get.
So for listeners who want some actionable alternatives right now, what should they look for?
Look for these privacy-respecting models. Instead of relying on services built on surveillance, you could explore Signal for messaging. It operates as a nonprofit and collects almost no metadata.
Okay, Signal for messaging. What about browsing?
Try Firefox. It's open source and built with tracking protection as a core feature, not an afterthought. And for things like file storage, a service like Nextcloud offers a powerful self-hosted option, putting your data entirely on your own server.
Total control.
Total control. Now, a related point here. For listeners who might be running a small business, a community newsletter, or a creator website, implementing these privacy-first choices is a bit harder.
The stakes are higher.
They are. You have operational concerns, maybe staff. You need lightweight workflows. You need structure. If this sounds like you can book a consultation for small business creator consulting.
Because that kind of specialized guidance is key. It goes way beyond personal use.
It does. It's about providing privacy-forward support with critical tasks like tool selection for teams, defining good data handling practices, setting up secure workflows.
And even drafting simple, compliant policies without all the overwhelming complexity you'd see in a huge corporation.
Exactly. Practical guidance without the corporate bloat.
So we've followed the data trail from our devices out into this massive hidden ecosystem. What's the core lesson we should take away from all this?
I think it's pretty simple. The risk you face depends entirely on the business model funding the product you're using.
It all comes back to the business model.
It does. Transparency is essential. You have to know how a product is funded, what data it collects, and whether you can truly opt out and still retain practical control over your information.
That's the key. So here's a final provocative thought for you to consider this week. For anything truly sensitive, your personal health data, financial planning documents, confidential professional emails, the safest option is generally open source and self-hosted tools.
Not because they're inherently bug-free, that's not the point.
Yeah.
But because they offer the highest degree of user control and radical code transparency. That control, that's the ultimate firewall.
That's a challenge we should all accept. So here's your actionable next step. Audit your 3 most used free apps today, the ones you use without thinking, and commit to replacing at least one with a privacy-respecting alternative this week.
A great first step.
Thank you for tuning in to The Privacy Report. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen.
Thanks, everyone.
This episode was made with the assistance of AI.